Okay, Wade, if you'd like to request Dharma, please go ahead and do it now.
恭敬大德圣听，为此法会济一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，殊胜无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering, attain bliss, and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samyao samputoshe.
Namo saranto suchetoye alahadi samyao sambuddhoshe.
无上甚
甚
深
深微妙法，
百千万劫遭遇，
难遭遇。
我今见闻得受持，愿觉如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Alrighty, Wade, thank you for the Dharma request. 师父上人，各位师兄大家阿弥陀佛。Welcome to our lecture today here in the second week of September. My goodness, it's spring is coming here in Queensland. September is spring, yeah, starting to warm up. Hope you're all well. It is 10:30 in the morning in Taiwan and China and Singapore and Hong Kong, Malaysia, Vietnam. And it is just past noon here in the Gold Coast. So let's continue. 我们继续先迎请华严海会佛菩萨天龙八部护法上身莅临道场，放大光明，照顾各位身心性命哈。 Highway, oh Pusa. One more time. Okay. And to continue, we would like to acknowledge country, the Pomo people, practice spiritual connections to the earth and to all creation here on their ancestral land for tens of thousands of years, multiple tens of thousands of years, and today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians and original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded, simply taken away from them. 我们恭敬地承认 Pomo 人是我们寺院所在地的传统属世和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他诺后者。There we have it. That's our preparation. That's our liturgy to get our lecture going. And we have nearly 100 friends here today. There'll be more by the time we're done. And 今天有靠近100多佛友来听法，包括在温哥华，不在温哥华。包括在我们济南法界这里有金勇师是当主持人，还有Wade 张春荣他也请法。We have we have translators. We have our host, Mr. Jin Yong and Wade, the Dharma requester today, both together with me at the Gold Coast here in the southeastern corner of Queensland. And the other co-host is Cheng Wei Hua, who is back in City of 10,000 Buddhas in California. We have friends from Shanghai, Hong Kong, Los Angeles, Sunnyvale, Bordeaux, France, oh my goodness, Saratoga, California, hi Cynthia, and where else? Montreal, and Singapore, and Kuala Lumpur, and Round Rock, Texas, Ukiah, Alameda, our translator is in Alameda today, San Jose, Taiwan, California, Seattle. Jin Rocher is here from CTDB. Hi, Jin Rocher. Let's see here. Friends in New Zealand, in San Francisco, in Seattle, in San Jose, in the Bay Area, in, where else? Calgary, San Bruno, California, Seattle, LA. Guaji is in Bordeaux today, Oakland, and where else? Here, Virginia. There we go. And now we switch over, and we have 邱福芬的台北，新加坡，一鸣欢迎湖南开封 ，OK， 北京、上海、哈尔滨、北京，杭州、安徽，合肥，北京，福建、吉林、黑龙江、辽宁、北京，还有哪里？ 还有湖南还有朝阳蓝海苏州 K 宝鸡陕西玄奘大师那个谁，我们刚刚知道虚云老和尚他的三步一拜结束呢，他就去哪里？宝鸡陕西西安那里然后终南山还有泉州，还有哪里？张家口，黑龙江、深圳、北京、吉林、北京，哇，每次东北人多。湖北哪里？就说这就是浙江海宁，河北唐山、北京、黑龙江，河南许昌，河南开封，浙江南京，海南岛新疆西雅图不是在中国，山东宝鸡就说鸡西黑龙江 ，OK good， 吉隆坡辽宁、山东、深圳、上海 and 河南，哇，台湾人现在真的落后。Okay, welcome everybody. So glad you're all here. We are going to begin today our investigation of the eighth transference. In order to get a sense of how it's going to go, I went to our library, got myself a copy of BTTS's, our very own publication of Shifu's explanation, which is also available online, DRBA Chinese, you can find it. And I was reminded of how Shifu made his way through the Avatamsaka Sutra, lecturing every single night. And how did he do that? The literary phrase for it is paraphrase. Shifu paraphrased. He takes the Buddha's words and says them again in more accessible language. Then, when the situation arises, he illustrates with a verse or a story or something going on in the community, and that doesn't appear in our publication. That was mostly edited out by the editor of those volumes as being too topical, too superficial. That's a decision that was made by the editors, and it's consistent. So, in that way, Shifu makes the sutra digestible for somebody who is reading it, who wants to understand it. And now, one of the things that is missing from the Avatamsaka explanations is a deep dive into what are called Mingxiang, the Buddhist code. Those explanations were done by Shifu in earlier sutras, like the Amitabha Sutra. If you look at the Omito Jingchen Shi, the Shifu's series are called shallow explanations, simple explanations. They're anything but. But in that particular sutra, Shifu took every new term and list and code word and explained it in depth for us, we Americans who were brand new to the Dharma, who'd never heard the three refuges, the four noble truths, the five roots, the five powers, the six paramitas, the seven limbs of enlightenment, the eightfold path, the nine apertures of the decaying corpse, etc. 9 stages of the decaying corpse. So Shifu essentially made a glossary of the Amitabha Sutra for students of the Dharma. Years passed, and now he's explaining the Avatamsaka, and he didn't review all of those all of the lists. Those are available, and the same audience had heard them and knew them now for years. So the Avatamsaka, because it's so vast, and because these principles are, as you get up in the 8th transference, for example, the the scope of the Bodhisattva's mind is vast, and so Shifu paraphrases and moves on through. 就说我们今天开始第八回向，第八回向呢是相当高的境界，菩萨就第九、第十已经离开了，就圆满这个十回向，可以到这个继续向实地品修行。那个上人他怎么样？中文 paraphrase 不知道怎么说，就说重复用简单的名字，用简单的话再说佛陀的道理，多数是这样子。然后呢，再继续讲下去，用白话文的普通话解释。有的时候他就讲一个故事，有的时候他就说一个偈颂，有的时候他就讲当时在金山寺在万法城所发生的事，他就讲几句。所以呢，这样子呢就很有次序性的，就说那些编辑周国立居士其他人把这个比较就说通常的事就把它删掉了他们认为这不是永久的道理或者师父讲当时的弟子的什么情形呢就不包括在内。结果呢，我们就少了什么？就少了这个名相，佛教的名相。为什么呢？不是说师父胡料了，不是，就说他已经讲过，好比说呢，那个《阿弥陀经》前世，师父2年前比这个《华严经》前几年了，他就讲得很彻底，讲得很圆满。预教一个名相就说三皈依、四谛法，这个五根五力六波罗蜜等等，师父就一个一个讲。那个观众是一样的，这些出家在家居士、出家人在家居士，所以呢，师父不重复了。这个《华严经》那么广、那么大的，师父如果要讲完，他就把这个名相，他就念名字就不一个一个解释。所以这样子呢，我今天要开始第8回向，我就回去把我们本会出版的这个中文师父讲开始讲那个《华严经》的开始，《华严经》的解释，我就温习一下。对了，就是师父讲法的方法。Now, I'm going to, as we go today, I'm going to give an example of, I've got a complete and thorough explanation of how Shifu explained stories, which is really fun. Those of you who know Shifu's sound, who have listened to Shifu's lectures on tape or who were even present when he gave them, you'll recognize the sound right away. 所以今天等一下我就有一个例子师父讲一个典故，一个故事如果你听过师父的录音带，我们的师父的录音带，或者呢你有机会亲自听到师父讲的法，你都一听了，你都马上都会认识原来这是玄华上人讲故事的语气，哎呀，真的。好听。Okay, that's my introduction for the 8th transference. Here we go. Not that one. We don't want that. We want this one. Here we are.《大方广佛华严经》十回向品第25之8 Avatamsaka Sutra, Chapter 25, the 10 Dedications, Part 8, Scroll number 8. And this is a retranslation by BGTS. 8真如相回向 The eighth dedication, the dedication that accords with the attributes of true thusness. 佛子何者是菩萨摩诃萨真如相回向？佛子此菩萨摩诃萨正念明了，其心坚住，远离迷惑，专一修行，身心不动，诚不坏也。去一切智，终不退转，志求大圣，勇猛无畏，志住德本，普安世间，生胜善根，修百净法，大悲增长，心宝成就，常念诸佛护持正法，于菩萨道信要坚固，成就无量净妙善根，勤修一切功德智慧，微调御师，珍重善法，以智方便而为回向。Disciples of the Buddha, what is the Bodhisattva Mahasattva's dedication in accordance with the attributes of truth thusness? Disciples of the Buddha, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas have clear and proper mindfulness. With firm resolve, they leave behind confusion, cultivating single-mindedly. Their profound resolve remains steadfast. They accomplish ever-enduring deeds. They strive for omniscient wisdom. They never retreat. They aspire to the great vehicle courageously and fearlessly. Planting roots of virtue, they bring peace to the entire world. They bring forth supreme good roots and cultivate pure dharmas. Their great compassion increases as they perfect their precious mind. Constantly mindful of all Buddhas, they protect and support the proper dharma. They have steadfast and joyous faith in the Bodhisattva path. Perfecting countless pure, wonderful good roots, they diligently cultivate merit and wisdom. As teachers who guide and regulate all beings, they bring forth multitudes of wholesome dharmas. With skillful wisdom, they make dedications. Okay. Let's do it the way Shifu would do it. Disciples of the Buddha, all of you disciples of the Buddha, this is Vajra Banner Bodhisattva, who is standing in for the Buddha to speak this Dharma. He's saying, how many of you know what is the dedication given by the Bodhisattva leader among Bodhisattvas, which is called the attributes of true suchness? Anybody know what that is? Asks Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva. Then he goes on his own to describe how Bodhisattvas are at this stage. He says, all of you good disciples of the Buddha, men and women, the great leaders among Bodhisattvas, the kind of the hero among Bodhisattvas, are this way. And what follows are 13 qualities. They have clear, proper mindfulness. Their minds are clear. They're able to hold these thoughts correctly and not crooked mindfulness, not sloppy, not careless mindfulness. Their resolve is firm. As they cultivate, confusion gets less and less. They cultivate with a single mind, night and day. 我们就跟着上人的榜样。他说：“佛子就是诸佛弟子，你们知道不知道什么叫菩萨中的大菩萨的真如相回向吗？你如果不知道呢，我会告诉你。”然后一下他就说，在这个境界，在这种的地步的大菩萨的菩萨中的大菩萨，他有这以下的这些美的这个功夫，已经有13个，他就点出，此菩萨摩诃萨正念明了，不是邪念，他会保持正念，他不是说讲了几句就忘了他的主题了，他会从头到尾整整齐齐的有次序他的念头了，起心坚住远离迷惑。你看他不是糊里糊涂的一个人， 他很会保持正念，专一修行。现在这个手机的时代，这个algorithm 来把我们的念头动了，一个机器就告诉我们下一个图像，下一个一个 video 是什么，就把我们的正念给乱了。菩萨他不会这样乱，他会保持正念。So the interesting quality of the times that we're in. Here is a bodhisattva who, at this point in his or her cultivation, has clear and proper mindfulness, firm resolve, no confusion, and single-minded cultivation. One of the results of the social media is, and the rise of the cell phone, the rise of the mobile phone, is that algorithms, machines, tell us what our next thought should be. It bombards our senses with images, with video clips that come from the mind of a computer, zeros and ones. There is no soul, there is no wisdom there whatsoever. And as a result, our thoughts get scattered. Our consciousness, our awareness, our focus is dictated totally for someone else's profit. And the big topic right now in education is removing cell phones from children during school hours. Just all of these, there's no doubt that this will be the future. And school districts are now doing this. They're providing a wall-mounted series of pouches, kind of like a shoe rack, on one wall of the classroom. And as students enter the class, they put their phone into the rack and get it back at the end of the school day. Now, this is probably a very good sign, because teachers were saying that before the rise of the cell phone in the 80s and the 90s, whenever there was a break in class, whenever it was time to take a 10-minute break, the noise and the ambient noise in the class was just, as you can imagine, very loud. All the students talking and discussing and making plans and checking in with friends. And after these students came back from COVID, from the COVID lockdowns, there was a break and absolute silence in the room as all the students just didn't talk to their neighbors, but only looked at their phones. Frightening. 就说有什么证明啊？现在这个时代，这个转移其心修行很不容易的。就说现在很多教育部，就是local， 就是附近，还有就说城市还有州长什么的，就现在考虑要不要，就说立个法律，就说孩子学生上课的时候不能看手机。甚至于进那课室的时候，就把手机放在一个口袋里边，放在就是老师管理的口袋。那么下课就可以再收那个手机，就可以打开。他们说，这是越来越多的教育部就立这个规矩。将来他们说这是对学生最大的帮助。哈。那么昨天听到一位教授，一位老师，就是高中的老师，他说那个疫情之前，学生就是那个那次的功课，讲完了就休息10分钟。他说那个课室里边哇大声音，所有的学生互相打招呼，互相立计划，互相就是交流。他说疫情结束之后， 学生回来了，就说休息10分钟，没有声音。那个课室里边所有的学生看自己的手机，不问左边右边的同学朋友，不过问，没有话说。他说那个是不健康的一个现象，所以将来是不是学生上课的时候不可以看手机？那个可能会在美国就在澳大利亚可能是一个规矩，一个做法。OK， 他们这些菩萨呢，身心不动，诚不坏业。他们无论就说什么境界到跟前呢，就说他们就会专心就不会摇动就说如如不动，了了长明诚不坏业，去一切智。他们对于一切智就是佛的境界，就是他们的目标，从不退转。求取大乘，他们是发大菩提心的菩萨，他们不是求自己的解脱，不管旁人了他们没有那个小心，他们有大心，勇猛无畏他们就不退就说念不退，畏不退，横不退，就他们就是这样子，没有恐怖心So these bodhisattvas, or what are they like? They have a profound resolve, which remains steadfast regardless of what kind of situation occurs to them. There's a phrase that says they are 如如不动，了了长明. No matter what situation arises, they are able to just stay focused. 了了长明 means that they are ever bright. They're constantly focused. Furthermore, they accomplish ever-enduring deeds. The karma is solid. They strive for omniscient wisdom. They never retreat. Their goal is the Buddha's wisdom. They don't retreat. They're in mindfulness, in practice, in stage, in category. They never retreat. They aspire to the Mahayana courageously and fearlessly. For them, because they actually see the connections between themselves and all beings, they don't want individual liberation. That's not the work. Their vows carry them to ever larger capacity of mind. Okay, let's see here. 止诸德本，普按世间他们这个止诸德本，德本就是说他们为人是怎么做，他们品德那个孝悌忠信礼义廉耻这个传统的八德，那个是他们没有忘了那么中国文化保持这个传统的八德最圆满所以将来如果我们就孩子不懂孝顺，可能就是佛教要来办教育告诉年轻人然后以身作则就说可以就说表示这个孝顺父母，孝顺佛菩萨孝顺老师师长孝顺这些斋主一切众生。那么这是发菩提心的这个根本的因缘。所以这个佛教很清楚在这里，中国文化就说保持就依靠佛教的这个教诲，才很清楚普安世间。如果就说要天地 就说很风调雨顺的话，就是依靠佛教了哈。那么，所以菩萨已经这个是第8回向的根本圣圣上根修白净法，就是菩萨他越修，他越就说圣圣上根。So more over here, they plant roots of virtue and bring peace to the whole world. This one is, you could just, riff on this particular virtuous foundation of the Bodhisattva here. We're looking at where they start for the 8th transference, what the Bodhisattvas bring to the table before they begin their cultivation of the 8th transference. And this one is really key. I'm going to be talking about AI coming up. And the thing about a computer or a large language model is that the aspect of virtue is completely unavailable to an algorithm. Virtue has to do with the nature, and human nature is not based on ones and zeros the way computer memories and computer programming is. So this idea of personal virtue, the Buddha is said to be 万德备, replete with all 10,000 virtues that all arise from the same place, the human nature, starting with filiality and fraternity and connection to social groupings called loyalty, right? 忠, 孝悌忠信, trustworthiness, 礼义廉耻, these traditional virtues that are held complete in Chinese culture and in some quarters are still alive. And certainly the leaders in China want to keep these in front of people because these are the foundation of a wholesome society and a functioning society. Individuals that are strong create wholesome families, and families that are strong create wholesome communities, and communities that are strong keep the country on the right track. You don't have to govern them when people are governing themselves because the takeoff point is the same, the virtue of the nature which is cultivated. So AI, or just a simple, before it gets to general artificial intelligence, those are based on human-created mechanical patterns that function in the left brain, but the right brain that brings them together based on right and wrong absolutely have no access to those criteria, which are the most essential for the Tao to grow. So they, planting roots of virtue, they bring peace to the entire world. If we want the world to be peaceful, we have to plant roots of virtue. Without those roots of virtue, the world will be in chaos. How can it be anything but? So 这点很重要，就说种植，就说知足得本，然后这个世界就会平安。如果你依靠机器，机器根本没有道德，那个孝悌忠信礼义廉耻，就说仁义礼智信，根本没有。那个机器啊，它是一左脑，就是一个一，一个零，一个一，一个零，就成就。哪儿有道德？没有，所以很危险。就说没有办法令这个世界安宁安静，不会的。 因为那个德本根本没有种下，那个是问题。So they bring forth their great compassion in creatures as they perfect their. Let's see here. I bring peace to the entire world. Bring forth supreme good roots and cultivate pure dharmas. Yeah, that's the next one. So supreme good roots has to do with the qualities of the Buddha. Beyond the six paramitas, the bodhisattvas in preparation cultivate good roots and pure dharmas. 大悲增长，心宝成就。OK，就是说大悲增长，因为他们现在我见我相越来越少，越来越少。他呢越来越少，他的大慈大悲越来越多，同一体。那个自是化成大悲，心宝成就。也可以说心地成就。心宝就是一个比喻。So the great compassion increases as they perfect their precious mind. I really would not translate it that way. As they perfect the jewel of the mind, you would say. It's not a precious mind. That's, in English, that leads you in the wrong direction. Precious mind, who values it, says it's precious. There is a jewel in the mind. You could even just swap it out. As they perfect the mind ground, the ground of the mind, that would be perfectly fine. It's metaphorical language for the mind, coming to perfection. Their great compassion increases because, why? The selfishness is decreasing. The less selfish, the more compassion. It's one substance just flipped over and perfected. 常念诸佛护持正法 There we go. 就说他们常常念诸佛，因为佛是最善良，他们心里就没有恶念，所以佛不离开他们的正心，他们的这个意识心。护持正法，就说他们在修行当中。你看他一举一动一言一行就是正确。So constantly mindful of the Buddhas, they protect and support the right Dharma. Because their mind is coming to light, you could say, their darkness is disappearing in the mind. So the Buddha, being the highest goodness, is present more often. And the less darkness you have, the more time you want to keep what's good and pure and happy in your mind. So there it is. They protect and support the right Dharma. In body, mouth, and mind, everything they do, you can take it as an example, as an exemplar, as a paragon. 欲菩萨道，信要坚固。他们因为现在呢。就有就说有道理，有功夫，所以他们设一个方便，众生听了就会一觉风醒，哇，怎么这么快乐啊！他们看到佛法真的会把烦恼化为菩提了，所以他们的方便法越施行，他们越愿意用方便法、方便智慧。They get results， 就说看到有效果了不会众生不会不听这样子那么 so they have steadfast, joyous faith in the Bodhisattva path. Why? Because their expedients are starting to work. They have real wisdom now, and when they set out to teach somebody, the people they teach listen. They actually go and do what the Bodhisattva suggests for them. It's not a constant stream of disappointments. So they're getting results for the proper expedients that they give and how satisfying as that. So the more they see it work, they see the Dharma that they prescribe, like a good Dharma doctor, actually transforms affliction and brings Bodhi instead. The more they see that, the more they want to do it, because it's actually starting to work. 就说成就无量净妙善根就是佛法里边的善根 They accomplish perfecting, bring to perfection. To perfect as a vow, as a verb, not so satisfying. To bring to perfection countless, pure, wonderful, good roots, diligently cultivate merit and wisdom. So, this is the result of the cultivation that they're doing. Their wisdom is growing in their merit and their virtue. 他们的智慧，他们的功德越修越出现了，越放光明。为调御师，生众善法，以智方便而为回向。就是说let's see, I'll do the Chinese first. 就说调御师就是佛的10种圣号之一。调御师、天人师、佛世尊，他们是这个调御师，就是他们会用佛法来把我们众生调御，就说他们是老师，我们是学生，我们学会了就自己离苦得乐生众善法以这样子，那么以智慧方便呢，刚刚说了哈，那么而为回向，他们这个第8回向呢，就是我们可以读到，我们可以听到他们的方便回向。So let's see here, they are teachers who guide and regulate living beings, and they bring forth multitudes of wholesome dharmas and with skillful wisdom dedicate merit. The 8th transference is where we witness, where we get to see how they are going to make dedications with skillful wisdom. The chapter is just that. It's a list of, it's a display of the skillful expedient means, the multitudes of wholesome dharmas with which these regulating teachers make dedication, make transference. This is the Tiao Yu Shi here is one of the 10 titles of the Buddha that we have when we do the 88 Buddhas, the guiding and regulating, the tune-up master. But these bodhisattvas are great tuner-uppers, just like if you've ever ridden a bicycle when some of the spokes aren't of equal length and the wheels get slightly bent because the support around the circle was not equal. So you just get your tuner and lengthen some of the spokes. Now the wheel is trued as a verb, trued up and made round. And that's what these bodhisattvas do for us living beings, right? Sometimes too much, sometimes not enough. So you just tune it up and we're right. 这个调御师哈，你们是不是骑脚踏车？那个脚踏车的轮子，它很多一根一根那个 spoke， 如果不一样长短不一样的话，那么就骑那个脚踏车那个轮子就会歪了，就不远，然后你就下车就把这个挑，有的要短一点，有的要长一点，把它一样的，然后呢，那个轮子在转的时候都会很圆满，就说转得很正确，不会歪了。我们英文就说 true the wheel， 就是把它真了，把它正了，真正，结果呢就转得很流利了，所以菩萨他就会把我们众生这样做了，那就是好办法。调御师 OK，菩萨而是慧眼普观所有善根无量无边。Then with their wisdom eye, bodhisattvas contemplate the good roots in their countless and limitless multitudes. So this is, pay attention here, because the word good roots comes up a lot. And this is, if we want to understand the process of transference, this is essential. This is the material. This is the stuff that bodhisattvas transfer. And if you're looking for roots, like in a tree, maybe you can kind of visualize it that way. It's an analogy. It's in Sanskrit, it's mula. And there are scholars who will tell you that because Asia is by and large a rice culture, and of course there are people who will say, actually we come from Dongbei and we don't do rice up in the northeast, we do bread, we do wheat, we do potatoes, barley and such. We don't do rice. Okay, but if you look at India, for example, and Southeast Asia and all, rice is an important crop. And rice is roots. You plant down a little seedling into the mud and it grows. Now, in where I come from, in the Great Lakes area, it's seeds. We talk about seeds. Wheat seeds, corn seeds. And so we would want to do zhong zhong, shan zhong, or shan miao, something like that in Chinese, before to get the agricultural metaphor working here. So when it comes to people, it's not roots, it's not seeds, it's potent qualities that are wholesome in our nature. And they are planted because you do them. You do the planting of good roots, which is to say you cultivate wholesome dharmas. And you think about all the things that you do in a single day, how many of the things that you do, that I do, are approved by the Buddha as corresponding to our nature and bringing out a wholesome quality. If so, that can be a baijingfa, a pure white dharma, because it corresponds to something that actually grows and produces goodness. There's a lot of other activities that do the opposite, that are wholesome, that are unwholesome and harm because of they don't develop. They're seeds of badness, seeds of evil, seeds of harm. And there's also some that are simply a waste of time, simply neutral. So the sutra says good deeds, good roots, wholesome qualities, things that are selfless and that benefit others. And those are called Buddha dharmas. The bodhisattva sees them, and when he behaves or she behaves in this way, the nature just blossoms forth with goodness. 这个善根这个字啊，这个名相呢很重要，会听到很多很多殊胜的善根，就说所有善根无量无边，他就观察善根。那这个善根呢，如果你在东南亚长大，在印度长大，在中国南边长大呢，你都会看到稻田。稻田就是种下米饭，那个很普遍，那是一根一根的种下去，在那个水里种下去，不是从种子苗。那么西方我长大呢，就是有玉米、玉叔叔就是 corn， 有麦子、大麦 wheat 有高粱。有洋芋 potatoes， 那个都是从种子就 seeds， 不是从苗，不是从根。所以如果我们懂得这个善根是一个比喻的话，那就是农产的比喻，就说 是因为那个时候佛住世的时候，多数的人是种菜为主，不住在乡下，是农夫多数，或者懂这个生活，那么当然这全部呢是比喻，就说善根是说心地想种的什么跟自信跟佛性有关的行为你这样做呢，修行那个自信上就有光明无明打掉，智慧产生菩提增长这样子。所以善根就是这种行为，佛所讲的修行的方法，跟我们自信上有连带的关系了。这样修行呢，善根就开发那个善良的德在自信上就先前了，有光明，这个黑暗的无明就退了，破了所以这个是一种比喻，那我们懂的所以现在菩萨他就希望我们众生就尽量的做善尽量的种下这个无量无边的善根，尽量的减少这种恶的行为，这种坏的行为，跟我们自信上没有好处，没有连带所以善根就是这么了解So I think it's really important that we connect with this idea of Shangun, good roots, because it's so central, especially to the idea of transference, dedication. If we didn't understand Shangun, good roots, what would we transfer, right? So this is an essential principle that comes up over and over here. And so this is the next line. When these good roots are cultivated and gathered together and describes them, then the Bodhisattva dedicates them to nothing else but the realization of wisdom. So that's the deal. 这些善根呢，他就继续讲说，那么修行，然后积极这些善根的时候，他完全回向给就说皆悉回向一切众智，唯一无二。OK， 所以我们讲下去一定要注意什么叫善根。So as we continue, we're going to pay a lot of attention to these wholesome roots. Okay, today I got going to give a little more time to our storytelling because I've got something that I really want to share with everybody. Here we go. The life of Xuanzang. Okay, 这是我们的故事城南400余里，至西罗山，是如来习温半偈就曰偈凡有料也，或曰寄托，梵文华也。OK， 今从正知切托。Okay, so this is a continuing 400 li to the south of the city. He reached Mount Hilo, the place where the Tathagata, in one of his previous lives, had given up his body to repay the kindness of a yaksha, from whom he had learned half a gatha. All right, now we saw this last time I was in Vancouver, and I thought, yes, we're gonna tell this story. Where is Master Xuanzang? Master Xuanzang is at the border of India. He's now in Pakistan, actually, in what is currently called Pakistan. And at the time, before the partition in India, in the 20th century, this was all the borderland of India, and the Buddha walked here. The Buddha performed miracles here. So Master Xuanzang is now in a place where almost everywhere, every mile, every 3, 10, 20 miles, there's a new miracle site, which was, mind you, this is the Tang Dynasty, 7th century, so it was, 1,000 years before, but people still remember because it was the Buddha. 玄奘大师现在他到了现代的巴基斯坦，当时印度没有分开之前，这就是佛1000年前就走过的地方。那么动不动到哪里就是有佛的这个奇迹，教化众生的奇迹，在所有的地方。所以这些故事出来了。上个礼拜我就讲这个夜叉这些故事，我念这个奇迹了这个公安这个典故，今天想跟各位分享。So I want to share with you this story, and I've got it the way 师父 tells it, which is just inimitable. That's the word, 师父's unique storytelling skills. And this is a true story from the Buddha's past lives. And I have it in Chinese. I'm going to translate from the Mandarin of 师父's storytelling. 这个故事，这个典故呢，我有上人讲解的时候，其实他在讲六祖坛经的时候，他就提到这个为半句而舍生命，佛的前生故事，佛的本生故事。Okay, so let's put this away and bring up our story. Here it is. Okay, 为8个字，佛肯把自己的身体布施出去，给我 ，let's see， 给我吃呢，就说这在六祖法宝坛经的时候，师父讲的。那个偈颂是什么？诸恒无常，是法是生灭法，生灭灭义，其灭为乐。这个恒，都是无常的，行为都是无常。为什么说是无常呢？都是说的生灭。灭生这个法。Okay, 师父 says this was explained in the Sixth Patriarch Sutra, in the 师父's explanation of the Sixth Patriarch Sutra. This story from the Buddha's past life came up, and here is where 师父 explained it. So the verse goes like this: all activities are impermanent and come from samsara, from birth and death, from creation and extinction and cessation. When cessation itself comes to an end, that stillness is true joy. So, then Shifu uses contemporary Chinese to explain it. He says, these practices are impermanent. So why do we say them? Because they all activities have to do, are part of samsara. Okay? So, 讲到这里呢，有个公案，就给大家听一听。释迦牟尼佛以前是因地的时候，他在因地的时候就做波罗门。那么他在深山里边修行的种种的法门，用功用得非常勇猛。接着就把第10天惊动了。第10天说：“嘿，这个人修到这么用功就得了。”于是乎就画一个罗刹鬼来试验这个婆罗门。到这个地方，他就说：“理不为如来曾经说过，戒恒无常，是生灭法。”说完了这个话，他就停止。Okay, how are we doing here? So, Shifu says, when we get to this point, there's a story. I need to tell you about it. He says, the Buddha, Shakyamuni, in the past, when he was cultivating on the causal ground, before he had become a Buddha, he was a Brahmin. So in a past life, the Buddha was a Brahmin. and he was cultivating out in the mountains in seclusion, and he was practicing a whole variety of methods, and he was very vigorous at that point. He worked really hard, and he alarmed the god Shakra. So Shakra suddenly had to pay attention to him. Shakra said, "Hey, this person is really working hard. Wow, how can that just go without recognition?" So he turned himself into a yaksha ghost. And he thought, I'm going to test this Brahman. I'm going to test him. And so at this point he said, what did Shakra say? He said, in the past, the Tathagata fearless, the Buddha beyond fear, said, all activities are impermanent and belong to coming and going. They belong to production and cessation. Saying that much, he stopped. Okay, now you all get the tension in the story, right? 这个时候修道的罗汉想这个婆罗门修道的婆罗门就想，哎，这个话谁说的？就说在各处去找一找，就找着一个罗刹鬼。这个罗刹鬼就像非常难看，非常丑陋，所谓生着奇奇怪怪的样子。他就说，是不是你说的诸行无常是生灭法？罗刹鬼就说，是我说的，我是替礼部为如来说的。过去佛中有一位礼部为如来，这是他说的偈颂，他的说的这个偈颂。So at that point, so here we have the standoff between the Brahman, the cultivator, and the god Shakra, who has transformed himself and disguised himself. So he comes down to the Brahman who's cultivating and says, "Hey." So the Brahman who is cultivating says, "Excuse me." He says, "Who said that? Who's speaking?" And he looks around, looks left and right, trying to find who is here, and he discovers that there is a yaksha ghost. And the yaksha is really, really ugly. Oh my goodness. He's just so hard to look at. He's just really disfigured and ugly. And so Shifu describes him as being just this bizarre appearance. That's what yaksha ghosts can do. So he says, hey, did you say that verse? All behavior is impartial. All behavior is impermanent and is part of the process of coming into being and passing away. And the yaksha ghost says, yeah, that's right. I did. I spoke that on behalf of the Tathagata beyond fear. He was a Buddha of the past, whose name was a fearless Tathagata, and this was his verse, and I'm speaking it on his behalf. 哇，那个婆罗门就说，礼部为如来说的偈颂非常好啊，诸行无常是生灭法。这两句呢，还有两句这个偈颂啊，你可不可以说完了吗？可以再讲给我听吗？ So the Brahmin says, oh, he says, so those two lines, everything is impermanent and all things come from the nature of production and extinction. He says, now, this is spoken by the Buddha fearless. It's really good. That's an excellent verse. But it's only half. There's only half of that verse. Would you mind telling me the second half of the verse? Couldn't you just finish it, please? 这个罗刹鬼就说，可以是可以，不过我现在没有气力，饿了很多天了，都没有吃东西，没东西吃，说不出来那8个字，我一定要吃饱了之后才可以说，没吃饱我就说我要找东西吃，这个婆罗门就说。你要吃什么东西呀？这个罗刹鬼就说，我要吃咸的肉，热的， 熟的肉，有暖气的肉，除这个之外是不吃的。师父讲到这里讲得很动听的啊。So the Brahmin, the Yaksha says, yeah, I could probably finish the next 2 lines of the verse. However, I'm really tired. I haven't eaten in many days, and I just, with an empty stomach, I'm out of gas. Those all 8 words of the verse, all 8 lines, no. I need to eat. He said, let me eat first, and then I'll finish the verse. So the Brahmin says, well, what do you like to eat? And the Yaksha says, well, what I really like is fresh meat. He says, I like fresh meat served hot. So other than that, I'm not interested. Wow. 好，那个婆罗门就说，你要吃熟的肉，热的，莫如你先给我讲了这8个字，我就把我整个身体供养你啊，好不好？罗刹鬼上下怎么看看婆罗门说，你能做到你这样子伟大的事情吗？为8个字，你肯把你身体布施出来给我吃吗？我不相信。So the Brahmin says, oh, you want to eat some fresh meat, huh? Okay. I'll tell you what. If you can finish all 8 words of the verse, I'll give you my entire body to eat. How's that? And the Yaksha goes, looks left, looks right, looks up, looks down, says, I don't think you can do something like that. That's just a little bit too much of a sacrifice. These 8 words, for 8 words, you're going to give me your whole body to eat? I don't believe it, he says. Wow, the Brahmin says, 你不相信我说的话是真是不虚的，我可以请十方诸佛给我担保，来证明我绝对不骗你。你先说这8个字，然后我就给你吃。这个罗刹鬼就说好，我说给你听，诸恒无常是生灭法，生灭灭意，起灭为乐。我说完了，你现在要叫我吃了。So the Brahmin says, you don't believe me? Oh, everything I say is absolutely true. I have integrity. I speak the truth. I will invoke the presence of Buddhas of the 10 directions to verify that. They will certainly prove that I will never cheat you. I speak the truth. If you tell me all 8 characters of the verse, you can eat me, eat my whole body. Oh, the Yaksha says, hey, you got a deal. I will explain it for you. Here it is. 诸恒无常是生灭法，生灭灭意，起灭为乐。我说完了，你现在给我吃了。So he says, okay, here it is. All activities, all things whatsoever are impermanent. And that's their nature. They come from dharmas that come into being and pass away. Now, when coming into being and passing away ceases itself, the stillness and serenity that follows is true joy. Okay, that's it. I want to eat you. 那个婆罗门就说：“你等一等。”罗刹鬼就说：“你想不算吗？这是不可能的，不可以的。”就说那个释迦牟尼佛前生这个婆罗门就说：“不会，我不会不算的。你放心好了，我供养你就是了。不过我现在要把你所说的寄送刻到树上。 你把我吃了，那么来的人你可以也看的这个寄送，也可以照佛法来修行。现在我想，见寄送，你就把我吃了，这不会等于没有听见一样吗？所以我要把佛法留在世界上。So the Raksha, the Yaksha ghost says, okay, that's it. I'm going to eat you now. And the Brahmin says, no, wait, not yet. And the Yaksha goes, what? Are you welshing on your bet on the deal? That's not allowed. And the Buddha in the future, the current Brahmin, says, oh, no, don't misunderstand. I'm absolutely going to keep my end of the deal, but you can relax. I will give my body to you to eat, but I am going to take the verse that you explained and engrave it on the tree, carve it on a tree. So after you eat me, people who come after will be able to benefit from having seen the verse. They can then cultivate according to it. And if you, now that I've heard the verse, if you just eat me, then, you know, it's just as if nobody heard it at all because it's gone. How can we keep this verse alive in the world? That's the point. Oh, the Yaksha goes, 可以啊，你写吧。于是乎，释迦牟尼佛把一棵树的皮用刀割去，就把这16个字刻到树上。罗刹鬼就说：“你这回我可以吃你吗？” So the Yaksha goes, okay, all right, hurry up, write it. And so the Brahmin removes some tree bark from a tree trunk, from a tree, and then uses a knife and then writes the 16 characters onto the tree. And the Yaksha ghost says, okay, you ready? My turn to devour you? 那个婆罗门就说你还是等一等，还要等一等。那个罗刹鬼就说你还等，你已经写到树上就得了，你还要什么论理啊，什么理论呢？你还是给我自己的身体去吃吗？那个婆罗门就说我要写到树上，风吹雨打，那个字就会没有了。你等我把一颗的刻到石头上，这才是永远的纪念，可以留到永远啊。你不是舍不得自己让你吃了，我不是舍不得不让你吃，我就是想佛法流通到后世，将来人可以看得见。So the Yaksha ghost says, okay, here we go, dinner time. And the Brahmin says, oh, well, wait a minute. Sorry, hold on here. The Yaksha goes, wait for what? You've already written it on the tree. What's your for what reason are you postponing my dinner? Are you going to retreat from your deal? You're going to quit the deal? The Brahmin says, no, I wrote it on the tree, but you know what? Over time, with changes in the environment and all these words on the tree trunk are going to vanish. And I want to write these characters I'm going to inscribe them on a stone. This is a permanent memorial. That way they will be preserved for the future. I am not trying to cheat you. I'm going to definitely fulfill my bargain, but I want the Buddha Dharma to be preserved into the future so that people can read it later. 这个罗刹鬼就说，你的思想就不错了，于是乎，就又让他把16个字就刻到石头上，然后佛呢，将来的佛就说，好了，这回我又把我所工作都做完了，你可以吃我，我现在就把整个的身体供养给你。So the Yaksha ghost goes, well, okay, I understand how you're thinking. So, all right, so go ahead, carve the the 16 characters here on the rock. And the Brahman, future Buddha, says, okay, good. So I'm done. My work is finished here. I am going to give my body to you to eat. Go ahead. It's an offering to you. So 那个婆罗门呢就闭上眼睛了，就正等着裸伽鬼来吃他的身体的时候，这个裸伽鬼永生虚空，跳到空中，就化为第10天，就说善哉，你真正是修道的人呢，你真的是不惜生命，勤修佛道，你将来一定会成佛。So the Brahman cultivator just closes his eyes and stands there waiting for the fierce flesh-eating ghost to gobble him down. And what happens? Well, the Aksha ghost instead leaps into space and transforms on the spot into Shakra, the chief among gods. And he says, good for you, you really are a cultivator. You really were going to give your body up just in seeking the Buddha's way for others, on behalf of others. You know, you have the potential to be a Buddha in the future. 这个时候，释迦牟尼佛过去生中为婆罗门是，曾经为半偈而喜舍生命，4句是整个的偈颂，2句是伴颂，所以说诸恒无常是生灭法，生灭灭已，寂灭寂灭为乐，应该是寂灭为乐，说错了，写错了，寂灭为乐 ，There you go。寂灭是快乐 ，Okay. So at that point, this Shakyamuni Buddha in the past, when he was a Brahmin, we know that he gave up his body for half a verse of Buddha Dharma. So the entire four lines are the whole verse. So only 2 lines are half the verse. So it says, all things whatsoever are impermanent. They belong to their source is coming into being and passing away. When that process, coming into being and passing away, comes to an end, what is left is Chi-mie. And this, Chi-mie, another